Thank you, Molly. I think that's such great advice just to echo of, um, you know, choosing your major, to know about what is offered at the specific college. To jump into the middle of my slide, I say identify, strong academic departments in your prospective schools, but also look at the larger educational experience. So it is important to identify if you're interested in biology or pre-med, or if you're interested in film studies, what will the course offerings be from that school. But I also tell students, don't pick a school just for one reason or one department or one person you met. Make sure that you decide on a school from a variety of factors, that you've made a pros cons list, and not just for one reason, because you may get to that school and change your mind about you know what you liked a year ago. So it's important to have a few different reasons as to why you would choose a school. um, so some program advice, just when you're looking into programs now, and then when you would pursue your undergraduate education. Molly's talked about this of general education requirements. What exactly are those? So plan to fulfill these general education requirements, what that will look like in, potentially your first, your second year, but you may also fulfill that requirement later on as well in your third or your fourth year. Generally, a general education English course or potentially a social science course to check. You kind of have a list that you will need to work with your academic advisor to take a class in a certain discipline, and then you need to have that requirement checked off in order to graduate. And this is something to look forward to, I think, as experience here. When I took a general education requirement for a social sciences course when I was in my undergraduate, it was an intro to sociology course. I knew nothing about sociology. And then I enjoyed the course so much and the professor that that was my major in college. And so I would not have chosen that major if I did not take that general education course. Again, this adds into being, flexible curriculums, changing your major being okay, but really plan in that first year at least to take courses to fulfill those requirements. Don't worry about it right now, just keep it in the back of your head. Next up is to seek out career centers that exist on the college campus, wherever you choose to go. These career centers and the professionals that work in these centers are very, very helpful for students to locate internships and opportunities related to specific fields of study. So it is very common for students in the United States to pursue an internship at some point during their 4 years of undergraduate. Maybe when you were a junior or a senior. At Washington College, we encourage students to pursue internships as early as their first year. This can be an on-campus opportunity or off-campus, and I'll talk more about that in a moment. I already mentioned identifying those academic departments when you're looking into schools. So, for example, ask admissions counselors if you can, learn more about the characteristics of a certain program related to you. They'll send you more information. Again, that is literally our job, to tell you about the schools and support you in that process. So please ask those questions. Next up, investigate noteworthy centers or funding that will be available at your potential prospective school. For example, noteworthy centers that we have at Washington College are relating to English and creative writing, history, and environmental studies. This photo on the right is actually our Center for the Environment and Society. You can see it's located directly next to a river, the Chester River, which goes into the Chesapeake Bay, which is the third largest estuary, which is a body of water in the whole world. And so very cool for students to do environmental studies in this specific place. So when you're looking into prospective colleges, and universities, see if they have specific centers and funding available for when you are a current student. Important to know that this funding might be inside of a department or a college, as Molly has mentioned, for a specific college at a university, but it might be only funding only accessible to business majors to pursue an unpaid internship in New York during the summer, as an example. But you might some students do not find out about that funding until they're a current student. And if you don't find out about it until you're a current student, you may have chosen a different college, which could have given you more money. Um, if you chose to go down a different path. So it's important to do your research and see what funding is available. Our English department, for example, has funding that can range between $1,000 up to $5,000 specific to English and creative writing students that they can apply for, and add that into their capstone project to do specific research. So one student went and visited Nova Scotia in Canada to amplify her writing about a famous literary, a classic that was written in that area. So that's just an example of using that funding available. My last point when you're considering programs and looking into academics at specific colleges is to consider geographical proximity for professional opportunities. I put after graduation, it can also be before graduation. So while you are a current student. As an example, I mentioned that Washington College is located next to a river, which is located on the Chesapeake Bay. You can see the map here behind me. And that really lends itself well to students learning about the environment, climate change, biology, chemistry, all of those kind of sciences with field-based components. We're also, while we are in a rural location, so it's kind of more small town in a historic place, it's located close to Washington, D.C., Baltimore, and Philadelphia. So for my students interested in political science, a lot of pre-med options as well through Johns Hopkins is based out of Baltimore. The students will often do pathways or partnerships that we have through these urban centers. This is just something to consider. Maybe you want to go to a school in the South, or maybe you want to go to a school in California. Wherever you want to go, consider what is surrounding the area to just maximize the opportunities available to you while you are completing your undergraduate and after.